Welcome to a regular scheduled board meeting of Pocahontas School District. I'm going to open it up for Dr. Arbuckle.
Okay, so the first item on our agenda is informational item. Since this is the first time the board's been able to come together after the millage, I thought we'd just kind of go over in an informational tone what happens next. What happens next is set out in law, in state statute. And so what state statute kind of talks about, we'll just kind of go through this, is that if the school district fails to pass a millage that's required to meet a facilities master plan, then the Division of Public School Academic Facilities and Transportation steps in. And so within 10 days of the failed millage, the division was to send us the district written notification setting a mandatory conference date, so a mandatory meeting date. That meeting date is currently scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in Little Rock, and so Craig and I will be going down for that. So the division did deliver the notice. The second step, if you will, is the division will issue an assessment of the current facilities. And so that is what we're expecting tomorrow, is to sit with the facilities division, and the division will basically give us their what we are required to do. And so that's really the next step is the facilities department division saying, okay, this is what you need to do. You have this choice, you have that choice, those kind of thing. Step 3, then the division outlines the potential consequences if the district fails to meet those things. Basically, the end result of that could be that the district is placed in facilities distress if the district fails to remedy whatever it is the division sees as issues, and then the conference will establish next steps based on the oversight rules. So, the facility issues that the division will consider is urgent repairs. So that would be things like immediate maintenance needs that cannot be deferred, suitability needs. So the facility must meet state-defined standards for appropriate educational environments. And then if there are any growth demands. Now, I don't necessarily expect that we're going to have any growth demands, but I do expect that there will be some conversation about the ADA compliance, the American with Disabilities Act compliance of our high school building, along with compliance with a limited number of rules promulgated by the Federal Department of Labor, because the state has already made us aware of a few issues that we're going to have to address in that building related to those. We had asked them to defer any decisions until after the millage, obviously. Now that that's come and gone, then it's the next step. So a couple of options that are encoded in law. These are things that are set out in statute by the legislature. Option 1 is the state might require a special election in the district. If that's the case, then the commission would identify immediate facilities needs that can't wait, and there would be mutual agreement required between the board and the state division of facilities to agree what issues would go on the ballot, and then and the state is pretty clear that only the approved issues, only the issues that the board and the facilities division could mutually agree on would actually appear on the ballot. A timeline would need to be established, so an election date would have to be mutually agreed upon, and then the state law does set out that there are consequences for the delay. So if no date is set for an election within 90 days, the clock starts within 90 days of initial notice, then the district automatically could enter into facilities distress. Now remember, that's one option. There is a second option. That would be that the district self-fund a project, so the district could avoid a special election by demonstrating a financial capability to self-fund a project. And so those are some of those conversations that I expect will be had with the division at our meeting. We kind of talked about that piece. I thought I'd just real quick kind of highlight what does it mean to be in facilities distress. So facilities distress is a classification that carries oversight by the state. It is the state basically saying that the district cannot oversee their own facilities, and so they need support from the division to do that. And there are some triggers to that. For instance, if the state were to say, thou shalt have an election, and we fail to meet that 90-day requirement, that could trigger facilities distress. If the district was not able to complete self-funding improvements, let's say that the board entered into an agreement with the facilities division to do option 2, which is to self-fund. If the district could not meet that agreement, then as agreed on with the facilities division, then the district could be considered trigger for facilities distress at that point. And then if there's, if the district could not, if we couldn't demonstrate progress toward meeting facilities obligations, that is a third trigger. So that's just, I'm offering that as informational at this point. I think there are 2 clear paths that the statute sets out. We've kind of covered those again. That's that hold a special election or prove self-funding capability. I think the key takeaway in all this is the state response has to be considered. It is mandatory by state statute, so we do not have the option to say, well, we'll just figure it out on our own. Let us handle it. Right? We have to go through this process, and we have to engage cooperatively, and then we have to make a decision and act accordingly to ensure that we maintain local control over our facilities planning process. So, really that, I want to stress that process started when the millage failed. At that point, then that 10-day trigger happened. The facilities division fulfilled their responsibility by saying, hey, we need to have a meeting. Can we schedule this meeting? We scheduled it. It was postponed till tomorrow, so we're still in that second step, if you will. And according to statute, it's really we have to enter into these agreements now going forward with the state, because in essence they're saying you didn't fulfill the first part, which is passing the millage, and so second step is we're going to get more involved at this point.
Could I ask a question? Of course, the whole thing, and I've been through all this before, so this is nothing new to me, but it's my understanding they were going to, partnership funding is what we're after. We can't build anything without partnership funding. I mean, we could, but $7.8 million. Is that off the table now?
Well, I think it's in question, right? It's sort of in limbo. If the school district doesn't demonstrate the ability to self-fund the project, then that money goes to the next school district in line, because when those partnership funds are given out, they line up all the districts, and then there's a district that is number 1 in line for yes, you're approved, but no, you're not getting any funding. And since we got funding, if the district ends up having to turn that money, in essence to say, no, we don't need it, or we can't use it, then that district is up next.
That's what happened last time. The district near us got our 9.1 million. Okay, the question is, how long are they going to give us to make a decision? Because we've got some decisions to make. Is there going to be 90 days? I mean, we got 7 months.
Yeah, and so
They're still going to let us be able to come up with a plan.
that's part of that meeting tomorrow, right? Is for them to say, this is what in essence, the state's going to say, this is what our boundary is, right? You have to do this, this, and this. At that point, then, after that meeting, I will bring that information back to the board and say, okay, the state facilities division has said we have to do this, this, and this, or, you know, if they give us, we have to do this, this, and this. And then it'll be up to the board at that time to decide which path are we going to go down.
Well, and that's what I think, because I think it's critical that we get partnership funding. I mean, you cannot turn down millions of dollars.
And I think you're, right, I think you're spot on, right? If there's a way that we can continue to access those funds, then, and we can afford to access those funds, that's the other piece, right? Can we afford to be able to utilize those funds, given whatever boundaries they put on it?
Well, I wasn't quite sure, you know, last time, we went through the same scenario. We came back, with a different plan that's a scaled down plan, of course. And they, of course, reduced the amount of money considerably.
Right.
But they were still willing to give it to us. Of course, in the last minute, we realized we didn't have enough.
Right. And I'm keeping that in the back of my mind, because that's what I think will happen, is they'll say, you know, okay, this is what you've been allotted. Now, you tell us what you can do. We'll figure that out. And then they'll say, well, you can keep, you know, 6 million or 5 million or 8 million or whatever, it's, you know, 7, you can keep all 7.8. I mean, that's really the purpose, one of the purposes for that meeting tomorrow.
They will give you a definite figure tomorrow, more than likely.
Well, I think what they will say is, you've been approved for up to 7.8, right? Now, you tell us what you're going to build, and then we'll tell you, you know, how we're going to address that
That's all
accordingly.
based off the PLR.
Correct. Right, yeah.
So if you and Craig are going down to represent the school board, I think maybe we should just go around the table and decide what we want him to relay to the state facilities. Does everybody here want to go forward with another millage in 7 months? Or do we want to self-fund this?
Well,
Because in your opinion, do you think we should do another millage in 7 months?
I think the question is, are they going to force the district to do a millage? That's the question I have.
Well, I don't think we should. I think we should show self-funding in order to keep from, because I mean, it doesn't make sense if we've already done it 3 times and it's failed every single time. It's not going to pass again, and you know, the state needs to understand that. And so they can force us to do a millage, but it's going to be a waste of time.
But that's the problem, Chad, during this whole process, is that you're ignoring what the state says. We don't have any control over that. And this is not just this school district. I have a brother who's a superintendent in another school district and represented multiple school districts for building schools. When they get involved, we don't have any control over that. I'm not saying they will, but I can't say they won't either. So if they force us to have another election, yes, we'll do it, because we're forced to, and if it votes down no, then it is what it is.
Well, I'm just concerned.
We still have to go through the process.
I'm just concerned. I would like to go to the meeting if the board would let me go tomorrow morning. It would take a board vote for me to go. I mean, I'd like to listen in, you know, because I think we can self-fund this. And so, I mean, if anybody.
I would think, let's just let them go, Chad.
Okay.
Come back with the information, and then we will all have a chance to sit down and talk about all of it. I want to know where they're at, so we'll know where we want to be.
One more question. Was this done after the last millage fail 3 years ago?
Yes.
I believe
I was part of the board here, and I don't remember ever talking about it.
I mean,
I remember Ms. Gross was our superintendent, and I know she went in front of the facility board, and she felt like she was been sent to the penitentiary.
But we didn't have to do a millage again, and we never built the schools. So what did they say?
well, when I took the job in February, one of the things that I was given in June when I got here was, here's the list of 10 things that need to be done. We've done 8 of them. And so we did the other 2 things.
But it never came in front of the board, I mean, as far as doing that. So it sounds like it fell between the cracks.
Well, no, I don't expect the facilities division to show up in front of this board, right? I expect the facilities division
Those
to.
things, Chad, we have.
The facilities, division did not come in and tell us we had to do a
We
millage.
did those.
No, they didn't.
No one's saying they will.
Okay.
But they were just saying they could.
It's an option.
And it's an option they could do, and we don't have any control.
Gotcha.
That's
I
my
just-
point. I'm
and
not
I
saying
don't-
they will either.
Yeah.
But they could.
Okay.
Let's just see where they're at, and then we've got a lot to discuss amongst ourselves about where we want to be, because, you know, we've got some options. We're not, well, I think we're,
Disagree.
I think we're in a good position, guys, to help our kids. So
I agree.
let's wait. I think we're in a good position. The only thing, you know, when this all started, and I want to go back a little bit and maybe kind of tell everybody, we approached the state about partnership funding and they denied us. They said no. Is that correct?
At which point?
This was maybe a year and a half ago.
Well, we had approached them about partnership funding for some major maintenance projects.
That's what they said.
And that's what they said no on.
That's when you and Dr. Stein went down.
That was my first year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I remember that happening. Had it been for the leadership of Dr. Arbuckle, we would not have received the funding. And I applaud him for going down and doing what was right for our district.
I appreciate that. Any questions on the fallout, the next steps, if you will?
Just got to wait on them. Huh?
Well, we hurry up and wait a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the second informational item. The board attorney, Mr. Don Mixon, is here. He'd like to address the board on some of these things as well. And then anything else that he feels like he needs to share with us. Don, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
The board, I've been sitting over here thinking about how I want to talk about this. I think there's been a lot of division within your board. There's about how do we go forward, what do we want to do. You're going to have that anytime you've got a board, particularly if I'm on the board. But what I think is disturbing about where you are is that you haven't shown unity as a board. And that unity can kill every project you go out for, because you send a message to the public about that. Until you get to that point where you can join together for something, and if you've got an outlier or a couple of outliers, you deal with that. You talk about that. You get your board together so that they're able to go out and present a unified front to the community. That didn't happen this last time. And y'all are facing some consequences for it. And I think whatever that outlier is for you, you need to deal with it so that you can come together and approach the public. Also, there are a few technical things that I'm not going to go into much right now, but there's some technical issues about what you think the law is. And I think those are things that you need some training about. You need some help with those. Those rules aren't the kind of thing that you're just automatically going to know, because I've lived here before, or I've been around town, and old Joe told me that, or whatever, something else. I represented this district since Marcus Camp's days. And so I've been around a long time in this district. It is a fine, fine district. You're just getting to a spot now, though, that you're starting to scatter a bit as a board. I'm not using any names because that's not something that needs to be talked about in this format. I am not asking to go back into your sessions, your executive sessions, and talk about this, because until you get together, you don't need me. Because you need to work on yourselves. And until you do that, and do it hard, and put your heads together and come to some way that you can unite about this, that you can listen to, these are the rules that we have to follow. And you follow them. So until we get to that point, then you got a long way to go. Now, is that something that I think you can't do? No. Because I have seen this district over the years, for a lot of years. I don't think I've represented you for 50 years. This is my 50th year doing this work. But I've represented you ever since Marcus took over here. So I guess I'm trying to be the preacher right now, to tell you that this is that come to it moment that you need to come together on. If you can't do that, then you need to spend a lot of time in those sessions where you're doing some training and you're taking some long, hard looks at where you are and why you cannot agree about things. And I don't think that's all of you saying, well, each one, we got 5 different viewpoints. I think it's something that needs to be handled within your board meeting. And that's the kind of thing that you can yell and holler about all you want to in your closed sessions. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You can scream at each other, you can holler at each other, you can throw things at each other, you don't care. But what the public is going to care about, and the contractors that you are going to deal with are going to care about, is can they trust this district to come together and produce a good product? Or help them produce that good product, because you're going to be telling them what you want. And I've seen that lots and lots of times when it just exploded the district. So I guess that's the end of my sermon. I came to tell you that we're available about that. We're available for some technical issues. Michael's here for any issues that you might have on that front. You've got people that you have tried to contract with, but you didn't move past the millage, so you never got to the next step of what do we do about that. But now I suspect there may be a disagreement in your group about whether or not we should go to those steps. I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm telling you to be a decent board. And I don't mean that any of you are not decent people. You are. You try to do what you think is right. But sooner or later, if you have outliers, or you have certain things that are not going to work, you got to figure out how to hammer it out.
Hey, Don, do you work for the superintendent or for the school?
I work for the school district.
Well, whenever I called you 3 years ago when I first got on the board, and I asked you a few questions, and you were super helpful to me. You said, call back anytime. I don't know if you remember that. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been trying to get a hold of you for 25 days. I've got 6 different times I've tried to get a hold of you. If you can look through these, there's 3 phone calls to you, to your secretary. And this is 10 days. This is 25 days ago I started. I've had 2 emails. I texted you once, and I made 3 phone calls to your office. This was long before I was going to bring anything to the board as far as numbers that would maybe convince the board that we can go a cheaper way. So why would you not have contacted me back?
I intentionally did not contact you.
Okay.
I don't.
Is there something that maybe you're biased, you might be possibly biased towards Nabholzsport? Is there something?
Did you finish the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not here to talk to individual board members.
Okay, I understand.
I will address the board.
Mm-hmm.
I can now go into the board meetings if you need me in the board meeting.
Well, you told me to call you at any time 3 years ago.
Wait, let me finish.
Okay.
I can go into the board meeting if you need me in there for something. then all you gotta do is let me know, the superintendent can let me know to come up here and I will. But I don't talk to individual board members because you are a board. That's exactly what I'm trying to talk about now.
So how should I have gotten hold of you to ask permission to do something? I mean, do I have to go through him and then he messages you?
I'm not the ones that's gonna give you permission. The people who are gonna give you permission are the other four.
Well, I talked to Lucas, who wrote the school board handbook, part of it, and he claims that you work for the school and I should be able to contact you at any
I
time.
saw your note to me about that. I don't agree with what Lucas said, but I don't have,
I mean, he's in ASBA, he's the school board lawyer for Arkansas. Why would you disagree with him?
he is a school board lawyer.
Yes. Who wrote part of the school board handbook?
He has.
Is there anything that maybe connection to Nabholz that you may have be biased towards, or that may be affecting your? So your son is not.
Have I employed any of you?
Does your son currently
Have I talked to any of you?
Don, is your son John Mixon, who's an architect, who's currently doing a $33 million project with Nabholz in your office?
He's upstairs in the top part of my building.
So he's in your building and he's contracted with
Has my
Nabholz.
son talked to any of you about this job?
No.
Well, I'm not saying that there's any connection there, but it might lead you to lean towards, now, if we have an issue with Nabholz, is we hire them as our construction manager, and then there's a crazy thing happen, do we feel like you are going to represent the school, or maybe you're going to lean towards Nabholz? Because these guys come into your building and go upstairs and talk to your son. They're currently building a $33 million school for ASU, or something for ASU, a veterinary clinic. They've done multiple jobs with Nabholz, your son has. So do I feel like you are in the best interest for the school or in the best interest for Nabholz? I'm kind of worried about that.
I don't know how you feel, and I don't really care how one person feels.
I understand. I understand.
What I care about is whether or not you five can come to some agreement about something.
Okay.
Can we back and just kind of clarify something? And it's not, when we had Mr. Mixon on retainers, my understanding of it, and this is the way the school operates, everything flows to the superintendent. A school board member would never, ever call the attorney. He would say to the superintendent, can we talk to the attorney? And most of the time, yeah, let's go talk to him. That's the way it works.
Well, I directed several questions to Dr. Arbuckle that he then forwarded to you, and I never received a response in the last 15 days. So, I mean, at one point I asked specifically, what policy am I breaking? I read the entire school board handbook over the last 2 days. I still have yet to see anything I've even been close to being unethical about in what I did. So I'm trying to figure this out. If you're not willing to answer the questions that I ask you, I don't see any use here. I'm sorry. The school board lawyer is you, and you're supposed to help us as board members stay ethical, stay legal. And if I have a hard time getting hold of you, I have a really hard time keeping you as a school board lawyer. I know that I can't make that decision. The board would have to make that decision as a whole. But that's what I'm worried about. You told me specifically 3 years ago, call anytime, Chad. So I'm trying to figure out why.
Well, I don't recall that conversation. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I don't know if it happened or not. I talked to too many people.
I understand.
But I don't talk to individual board members because of the very thing that's happening now.
Okay.
Because you have a view about this, it's a particular view, and I'm not signing on to it.
Okay. Does anybody else have an opinion?
Okay. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. Okay, so we move to the public comments section of our agenda. Chad has asked me to read from the policy. It says individuals who sign up to provide public comment shall have 5 minutes to provide public comment as follows. Individuals who have not signed up to provide public comment on an item on the meeting's agenda shall be given an opportunity for public comment at the start of the board meeting prior to any business. That's where we're at right now. If the public comment on matters that are not on the meeting's agenda extends beyond 30 minutes, the board may move the remaining public comments. not concerning items on the meeting's agenda to the end of the meeting agenda, and B, individuals who have signed up to provide public comment on any item on the meeting's agenda shall be given an opportunity to provide public comment prior to the board taking action on the item the individual has signed up to speak on. All discussions of personnel shall be discussed and considered by the board in executive session only. Complaints concerning an employee or student by a patron are not allowed and would have to be submitted to the superintendent in writing.
Real quick, I want to make a motion that we return to the item that you were talking about with the state, the first item.
Okay?
Make a motion, we return to that item for a question.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to return to the first item. Everybody in favor say yes. Yes. Motion passes 5-0.
That's just one simple question, but I have it written down.
Okay.
When we're talking about facilities, you know, when they were looking at them, what all buildings are they gonna look at? Is it just our high school campus?
well,
The whole,
It'll be all, everything that was enclosed in the original plan. So it'd be the cafeteria.
junior high?
No, it'll be just the high school project.
Okay, I thought that's right. but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. Thank you.
Okay. So moving back to our public comment section, our first member of the community for public comments is Mike Jones.
Everyone, I appreciate your time. I don't know what y'all paid to be on the school board, but congratulations for what you do, and my condolences also. It's hard. I went to school here. I graduated, surprised some people. I wasn't a scholar. I made A's in football, though. Important. Mom and Dad were here. Dad didn't graduate. Dad went through his junior year. The last game was over on Friday night. You know the day the next week. Football stopped in Pocahontas for several years. Tim Allison's doing a big thing on this. I think you know all about it. But Eddie Walden is here. We both worked in construction all of our lives. I work with bad boats. I work with all of them. I worked with a lot of them. You know the names of Alabama State, down bottom. We did the first net zero school in the world. I mean, used the lowest bills ever recorded of our school. Architects are necessary, but they like to put their signature on that building. You show me pictures, Chad, of the columns on this school over here. What do you think those columns cost?
I wouldn't even begin to speculate.
You know, they're nicer. I've got a nice house. Not one part is as nice as any one of the columns. How many columns were there?
67 at the elementary school he's talking about.
$1,000 I talked with a businessman in Little Rock the other day. I'm sure not going to mention names here tonight. Been around schools all his life. It would impress you if you knew this man. One school had problems like this. I think that's what he was telling me. But anyway, what they did, they built some prototype buildings. And they were all pretty. They all looked like schools. But the rest of the school systems in that state could pick any one of those school buildings. And they do, everyone knew the cost per square foot, and they were significantly lower than what we have here in Arkansas. Anyway, I'm sure I'll think of something else after I sit down that I wish I had said. I am here, Chad, because I support this man. I'm a businessman. I'm not the only one here supporting this man. Anyone else. We need someone to not do things the way they were always done. But I also know there's so many rules and regulations and bureaucracy. I was on the parliamentary procedure team here. We got a third in the state of Arkansas. I've lost a lot of that. Was that a motion you made a while ago to go to Little Rock? Did someone put that in the form of a motion?
No.
If you will, they have to vote on it right now. in front of all us, and I hope you'll pass that. What will it hurt for him to go to Little Rock to learn more, to share with y'all, to unify you? That needs to be done. Now you're a nice guy. I'm sorry, we don't need you anymore. Please hire somebody else. When this man, who, did someone contact?
Sir,
me?
you need to address the board, sir.
Did any of you members, did you contact this man about the phone call that he made? Yes or no? Did you tell him not to respond?
Does this board want me to engage in these conversations, or are we just hearing public comments?
Well, I think he's got a question, you know, he's
I think we want.
not over time.
I think you heard Mr. Mixon say,
I think
and you
there's one
heard Chad say, that I forwarded everything that Chad had, and Mr. Mixon said he deliberately did not answer the questions for the reasons that he gave. So yes, to answer your question, I did.
I think you did what? You did talk to him about that, and you did say something to the effect that it's not a good idea to talk to this man, who's the president of the board.
No, that wasn't the question you asked. The question I
That's
thought
the
you.
question I'm asking now then.
Okay. My job is as administrator for this board is to act as a liaison to represent this board. That is my job, and I feel like I'm doing that to the best of my ability.
I don't mean to offend anybody, but I believe in this school, I love this school, that's why we're all here tonight. We need to make good decisions here. Chad comes from a business background, so do I. I've got a lot of common sense, everybody here does too. We just need to make good decisions, and we need to listen to people that have ideas. Maybe they won't all be correct, but we need to listen. And we need to, when it's all said and done, we need to have unity.
Thank you, sir. Your 5 minutes is up.
Thank you, Mike.
My thanks to all of you.
I would like to make a motion to add to the agenda, a motion basically putting on the agenda that I can go to Little Rock. No second? All right. Dr. Arbuckle?
Okay, our second member of the community to speak, Paul Carr.
Good evening, folks. Dr. Arbuckle, the rest of the board, I think most of y'all know me. I've come up with some questions in the past, and I don't know that I've actually got into the entire board about some of the funding and some of the taxes that go to other school districts, are my concerns. Many years ago, at the closing of Oak Ridge Central School, all of that area up there was dispersed to other school districts. And I don't know how much of that you guys are aware of. You're not as long in the tooth as I am. However, we have a substantial amount of money going to other school districts outside of this county. And that is my concern. I don't know how much, how long, or any of these other factors, but I do know that $250,000 goes to Mammoth Springs School District, which is in Fulton County. Fulton County and Randolph County share no borders. I have yet to be able to find a student from Randolph County that attends in Mammoth Springs School. I just don't understand that entire process. We currently have $1,460,000 a year leaving this county and going to districts outside of this county. That includes the real estate taxes, that includes the personal property taxes, all of those things. And I'm going to pick on our poultry industry here for a moment. I like them all, but there's a poultry industry that was not present at the time that some of this happened. If I exceed my 5 minutes, I apologize, roll call.
I'll let you know.
But people up in the Elm Store area pay all their taxes to Elm Store, or to Mammoth Springs. There's nothing like it. They don't understand why. Their children don't go to school there. You can't get to Mammoth Springs from that area without going on a bus route that takes you through Missouri. Those are the concerns that I have. Why does $1.4 million leave this county and go to other districts? Same thing happened when they closed Beggars and Reno School. All of that money went to corn. I've got it here. $413,000 goes to the Corning School District out of Randolph County. $644,000 goes to IMBO. Love the people over in IMBO, I really do, but I love the people in Randolph County more. I just can't understand how we can get this money back into our community. I've personally mentioned this to a couple of people here, and I'm still waiting on a return and an answer to some of these questions. How do we get that money back? Who sent that money over there? How was this all divided? This is just beyond me, and I don't think the people in Randolph County understand. This would make a huge difference in what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish in our building process in Randolph County. Any questions that you might have for me, feel free to ask me. I've got the entire list here. This is $1.4 million leaving here and going somewhere else. I think our money needs to stay at home. How do we do this? That's what I'm asking. How do we do this?
Well, I appreciate it, Paul. That's something I've never thought about. You know, I understand that some of it's split up, and I can understand, you know, if somebody lives on a mile this side of Imboden, that possibly the money should go to Imboden, but that is definitely something.
Well, I understand that.
Paul, one thing.
Yeah.
You got to remember, there is 4 districts that cover the Sloan Hendricks School District built on Hoser Lane.
I understand.
All that money would go to Sloan Hendricks. Everything from there to Springer. I mean, James Ray Chester's house is about
I understand. So
like at Elm Stone, very familiar, have a lot of friends up there.
Sure.
They're in the Mammoth Springs School District, so their money would go to Mammoth Springs.
okay. Can I respond to that? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
we're
listening.
talking, I'm listening to you.
So there's our real estate. What about the personal property tax? Got a young man who used to work for me up there, and I've talked to him about it, and he assesses his taxes. He licenses his vehicles. He pays his taxes in Randolph County. His business is in Randolph County. He's in and out of Pocahontas, and all of that money, including his personal property tax, goes to Mammoth Springs. I just don't see the fairness.
Is his property in the Mammoth Springs School District on your tax?
It is, but that's real estate. He does not go to Mammoth Springs and get his car license. He doesn't do those things.
Oh,
He
you're talking
votes
about
here.
personal property.
Personal property taxes. And if you look in this, it's broke down there. The personal
Oh, I see what
property
you're saying.
tax.
They're in Mammoth Springs School District.
So-
The school district, when they divided Oak Ridge, you go up towards Dalton, you got Mammoth, Maynard, Pocahontas, Sloan, like all 4 plus.
You're talking about just personal property.
I'm talking about,
Well, your real estate-
but the injustice
But your real
is,
estate's gonna go whatever district it's in.
and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
However, what I disagree with is $200-some-odd-thousand goes to the Corning School District. Excuse me, let me borrow this back.
You go ahead.
Corning gets $413,000 a year.
Hey, hold on just a second. I make a motion to extend your time 5 minutes.
I don't, if y'all ask questions,
No,
I'll
that's
stay
the
here
question we
longer.
asked for, we're anxious to hear it.
So Corning gets $413,000 per year from the generous folks of Randolph County. Of that, real estate tax, which I think is where you were kind of talking about there.
Yeah, real estate, well,
The real estate tax is $170,000. The personal property tax is $243,000. They're making more out of Randolph County people's trucks, tractors, cameras, all of the personal property that we have exceeds the real estate taxes.
so it's same time.
I think we should task Dr. Arbuckle with investigating this and come back to the board.
Give our county officials.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that do it, not us. Money never.
I pay, my wife and I own property, and we pay taxes in 3 different school districts. And I understand the real estate side of this. I have my wife's family farm. There's a poultry house on that farm. Every bit of that money, their vehicle license, everything goes to Mammoth Springs. And you literally can't get there from here. There is not a paved road that you can go to Mammoth Springs to their school without going through the state of Missouri. If you're in the Elm Store area or Dalton, above Dalton, Mike, that's all I know. Your guys' houses, is that Maynard or is that?
The man runs up the highway and he bridge, crosses the bridge, goes down Old Bridge Road. Listen, we Starburst, the Old Bridge Center. Right. We stood in one district, one to another, trying to figure out Corning. That's how they all ended up in Corning. Right. Corning took the whole boat. They didn't do that.
Wait till Gary gets back and
Starburst.
sound good.
Hmm?
Wait till Gary gets back and move on.
That area was close to the man's right.
Yeah.
Maynard got a bunch, we got a bunch. But that's.
We didn't vote on it. We had a motion and a second here. So I give it 5 minutes.
Education, there's who you have to talk to, they're changing. And these school districts, they're not gonna give up their area. And that's just, those taxes are gonna go to them. And you can't pay the governor to do
I
something.
understand, but I have yet to identify one student.
I can tell you, they.
That goes to Mammoth Springs,
Mammoth Springs, yes, I can tell you, them y'all kids go to Mammoth Springs.
Okay.
Paul, if I could ask you one question.
Yeah, I was gonna ask something too.
Every morning.
Are we collecting any money from any other counties? You've done a lot of research on this. I was
I've
just
not-
curious.
I've not found that. The only other school that I'm aware of that closed was Black Rock.
Okay.
And in my time that I remember, and those kids, those monies were sent to Walnut Ridge, Hoxie, and Indian Bowden.
Okay. I was just curious.
As a
Not been able-
clarification, we do receive taxes out of Lawrence County.
Okay.
We do?
Yes, sir.
Is it comparable to the?
I'm sure it's not.
So we're giving $644,000 a year to IMPA. Again, I've got friends and family over there.
And all those kids have Pocahontas addresses.
Yeah, and, you know,
Their mom and dad vote in Randolph County. Their mom and dad pay their taxes in Randolph County. They license.
to be fair to Imboden, they do have the border within a half mile of their city limits, so that's why it's so much different than Pocahontas being 7 miles from the nearest border of the
They
county.
really don't, Chad. Imbo, the school district starts before you
So-
cross 11 Point River.
Okay.
So it's not my point to
Johnny
pick on
Chester
one
signs.
and not the
Yeah,
other.
for sure.
One of the famous clauses or statements out there in this world is, right now, is claw it back.
I'd say.
We got $1.4 million.
I'd say let's investigate this. If we may have to talk to Trey
Could be a good
Steimel or Blake
question to ask
Johnson.
tomorrow while you're down there.
So
And I don't know what the answer is. I just think that it seems kind
yeah,
of odd that the money we need to build a new school was at $1.4 million.
Thank you.
A year.
All right.
And this to me, this is a huge thing. I just wanted to ask that question. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I commend you guys for what you do.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, is there anybody else who didn't sign up? I'm going one more time, who wants to address the board? Okay, seeing none, then we are going to move on to our first item. This is the board minutes from November 17th. You have in your packet the minutes from the regular board meeting on the 17th. Obviously, if there's any questions, be happy to answer those. Otherwise, we would just need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the minutes from November 17th. Everybody in favor say yes. Yes. Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, the next is our presentation of reports on student achievement. So I just wanted to highlight real quick for the board, middle of the year, we have testing that begins to come up. So starting right after Christmas, January 6th, the K2 interims will begin. So our kindergarten through second graders will begin taking their interim exams, interim atlas exams. January 12th, the third grade interim will open up. So the third grade interim will happen January 12th through the 15th. At MD, the interim window will happen for each grade January 20th through the 29th. So you got a 2-week window there. The summative exams for MD will happen April 20th and April 27th. We have not set the summative dates for the elementary school at this point. Junior high, the second interims will begin on March 6th, or March 2nd, I'm sorry, March 2nd. Also, our 8th graders are taking the NAEP exam. So for those of you who might remember, the NAEP exam is the one national test that kiddos are chosen, or school districts are chosen by lottery for either 4th grade or 8th grade. So our junior high kiddos, 8th graders, were chosen as a part of that statewide lottery to take the exam. That information will then be gathered nationwide, and Arkansas will be ranked with the other, 49 states. And that test data will start probably coming out in the fall of next year. So March 18th, right before spring break. And then the summatives for the junior high are set for April. So a lot of our summative exams are obviously going to happen in April. The high school will take the ACT on February 24th. Their March 2nd will be their interim window. March 31st is the Work Keys exam. Work Keys, you may remember, is that exam that seniors are required to take. That is a part of
I'm required to.
we'll get you tested if you want to get tested, right? That exam is a workplace readiness exam. The Work Keys test is actually offered through ACT, but it will give kids feedback on their workplace readiness skills. And then the summatives for the high school will happen also in mid-April. We will also have the PSAT, the SAT 10, or the PSAT 10, although that hasn't been scheduled yet. We're waiting on the state to tell us what those windows are. So just another example where we don't set those dates, right? The state says, here's your window in which you can take those tests, and you have to take those tests. So gives you a little bit of understanding of kind of what our kiddos are going to go through over the next few months regarding the standardized tests and standardized assessments. Any questions regarding that information? Okay, so moving on, we have our first action item. First action item is the approval of the monthly financials. You have in your board packet the board report for November. You also have the summary, as well as for revenue and expenditure. Obviously, each month, I give you the last year comparable to this year with the same period. So what you have this time is you have periods 5 in 2026. Also, you have period 5 in 2025. That gives you an idea of where we are in that, in spending or in revenue across all of our funds. Obviously, if there's any questions there, be happy to address those. If not, we would just need a motion. The one thing I'll point out, and I always point this out or try to, is that when it comes to the board report, there's going to be some negatives in the federal money, because that is something that is reimbursable. We ask for reimbursement on that after we spend the money, so that's always a little behind.
Make a motion to.
I have a motion and a second to approve these monthly financials. Everybody in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item 7.2 is the tax rate restructure. We asked Michael to come up and answer questions for the board. This is this is a conversation or a decision that needs to be made prior to item 7.3 being made a decision on. Once you make a decision on item 7.3, then that sort of limits us, at least for a year, on some of the tax rate restructure. So, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Good to see everybody. I'm going to hand out, just so you have it. I know this is a lot of information we've looked at before. What's been doing to me lately? I think it's stuck here. There we go. But I wanted to provide y'all kind of an update. I don't know if update's really the right word, but just kind of a look back at the information that we've been covering, that we were covering leading up to the election. Because obviously, I think you've got to make decisions going forward on what you'd like to do. And so I wanted to present some options that would not require a millage increase. Now, I know as we were going into the election, that was kind of a big conversation, and the decision ultimately was that, to maintain the district in the manner in which you wanted to, the millage increase was necessary. So I'm here to kind of, walk you through those. Again, this is information you have seen before. We're looking at your assessed value on page 1. Now remember, that's your tax base. So the way it works in the state of Arkansas is the boundaries of districts are drawn. Those are taxing districts, whether they be within a certain county or counties. That's the taxing district. Just like a city is its own taxing district and its county is its own taxing district, the school district is a taxing district that has been made through state law. So your assessed value within your taxing district is what you're looking there. We'll get the 2025 assessment number here in a couple months. Your county may have a first look at it, but people are able to protest those. And so it's normally not a good number until about the end of the first quarter of next year. So you'll have your 2025 assessment number. Your millage structure on page 2. So your 32.81 mills is your current levy. State average is 39.25. So 1 mil on the $212 million assessment generates just over $201,000 annually, assuming 95% collections. You can see your collection rates there for you. Again, this is all information you saw in the lead up to calling the election, What I wanted to move towards is just looking at page 8 and looking at the coverage chart that we discussed substantially. So this looks at your outstanding debt profile. So as I think many of you are aware, you have a couple bond issues. What we were looking at doing with the millage election was restructuring one of those bond issues. And really that was more because that bond still had a couple of years left on it and the payment was about to drop off. So to minimize the millage ask as much as possible and not disrupt your current budget, we were going to include that one with it. We weren't going to really extend it out like you would see with a normal millage restructuring. But the point of it is, and I think what you're aware of, you have a drop off in your payments from 26, 27 fiscal year right there to 28. So that's your bond payments that you're looking at on the left column there. The revenues column, which assumes zero growth, is how much is coming off of your 7.81 debt service mills. So your mills generate 1.57 million. You have a payment currently of about 780,000 that will then drop off to about 480,000. We were going to utilize that drop off with the millage ask again to minimize the overall tax question. So your surplus was about 800,000 is what you're looking at there. So that surplus can be used for any lawful school purpose. That can be used to leverage against additional debt. It can be put into your building fund, and it can be used for maintenance and operation. And I think you as a district have been able to put back more than that in previous years that you're seeing there. Again, a lot of times we've seen that with the COVID era money. So if you remember, and I'm trying to refresh you on a lot of the conversations because I know it's been a while, a couple months since we've discussed this. A lot of districts, during COVID era, we're getting a lot of federal money, so those numbers kind of looked really good and really inflated. And that was the conversation we were having before calling the election, was let's make sure that we're not going to overburden the district with debt that we can't afford. That was the ultimate goal, right? And so that's how we arrived at the millage ask, was we're going to combine the restructuring with making sure we're going to try to maintain the current level that our students are used to. So I take all that information and then I just start looking at information, again, that we have covered before. So if you're looking at financing projects, there really are big projects. You're going to look at bonds. So there's other ways to do it with non-bonded debt. If you'll remember, that's really short-term debt. Unless it's all energy conservation, you're only allowed to go out 10 years. So it's really challenging for a district to repay debt that shortly. And you could even issue bonds for shorter. What we're looking for is the ability to pay debt over a longer period of time, to amortize the debt over many years, just like a home payment, right? Everyone wanted to pay it off in 5 years. You couldn't afford the monthly payment. Same concept here. We're trying to stretch out the payment. So that's why we've kind of gone through the analysis of, okay, what avenues make sense. And so that's issuing bonds, tax-exempt bonds. So there are really then subcategories within that. So there's second lien bonds, which do not require a vote. So that is issuing under your current taxing authority. So voters have allowed you to levy bonds out to 2049. So that's what these first couple of examples look at. It shows you what would the payment be if you were looking at just issuing a second lien bond. Now, if you'll remember, going into this project, we needed multiples of millions. So we sort of checked off the second lien because where we were trying to get for the amount we needed to borrow, we didn't really have, we may have potentially had the capacity, but then it was going to put us in such financial burden that we were in no way comfortable. Because a second lien bond is just like, it's not exactly like taking out a second mortgage on your home because your assessment's grown. So I'm not saying it's like that, but it is taking on that new payment. And it's saying, hey, we're going to go buy a bigger house and we're going to have a higher payment and no new revenue coming in.
So I just want to point out, in the past, we did have this conversation, and as a board, we decided that was not the best option at the time, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so, and just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page, it's just kind of what I thought it would be very beneficial to walk back through that. So, issuing a second lien bond for $2 million is what you see there on page 9. That's about $150,000, but obviously the needs that we were looking at with the size of the project was much higher than $2 million, and then $3 million is a second lien. That's about $230,000, and then you go to $4 million, you'd see it's about $300,000. So that's a $300,000 new payment, but we went up to $4 million because I think it illustrates a point as well of utilizing that drop off, right? So if you look at that scenario I've run for you, of $4 million on page 11, it picks up right around what that payment would be when it falls off. But because of the maturity length that we're stuck with, for lack of a better term, or voters have authorized is probably a better way to say that. We're able to generate 4 million and still kind of be budget neutral. We could probably bring that up a little bit and still be budget neutral, but I don't want to show you, I've already got a lot of examples here, so I was trying to, so 4.5 million would probably be budget neutral in the second lane that you could issue.
Is there a cap on that, on like how much you can do in the second lane?
No, well, obviously your current taxing authority, so the state has to approve it. They're not going to let you go above surplus. They're going to defer to you on what you feel comfortable paying. They're going to allow that local control. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're very comfortable with that payment before we take on that payment. Because again, there are no new revenues coming in. You may get assessment growth that helps make that payment, but we really don't need to bank on that. So the board would allow you to issue that to where that surplus is nearly zero. Would I feel comfortable advising you to that? Absolutely not. We got to make sure that you can afford the payment. And one of the big things that we were talking about leading into the millage, and I'm just trying to remind you all of everything that we talked about. Again, staffing, salaries, how do we pay our people as well as get our projects done? So we sort of run into a point where, yeah, maybe we can carve into our surplus a little bit, but at what point does that then take away from other goals that we have of trying to pay our staff and things of that nature?
Michael, let me ask you a question on that. Suppose we went into that, and the biggest thing that jumps out at me is loss of students. Because we are losing students, so we're decreasing that we lost revenue. That doesn't change that, you still got to make a payment.
Correct.
What if, I'll just give you a scenario, I'm trying to say, you have to give me, I think, 10 years ahead.
Yes, sir.
I plan on living to be another 50 at least. But anyway, if we got out to a point, say, we really want to do this project, we got here, we got the money, we did it. If you got into a situation like a district nearby maximize their bonds, they start growing. Now they're having to go back to the voters for a substantial millage increase. That's my fear. Is that feasible or possible?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. So you're leveraging your current borrowing authority with second lien bonds. Absolutely. Okay. So you're utilizing that authority. Now that isn't necessarily good or bad as long as you're utilizing it in the appropriate manner. In the sense that if you're having substantial growth, you may be having substantial assessment growth, which means you have additional revenues coming in. It also is what can you get done at what your patrons will allow. So I mean, there comes a point with any district, not necessarily your district but any district where facilities have to occur, right? At a certain point, the state will come in and they will put you on facilities distress. Now, how much are they going to, I don't know. But at a certain point, you're going to have to do facilities. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general. So if you're not able to...
This board, and we are all united in this, and all of our staff here, we want to provide the best possible thing we can to the kids. But we've got to meet state standards, and right now we're not. So if we bring it up to state standards and we're maxed out on the bonds, and we have a catastrophic failure of the building, and we have to have another $5 million, where's that leave us?
Hopefully with a catastrophic failure, and again, this is why we weren't trying to overburden the building fund leading into this. And you would hope maybe there'd be some insurance that would kick in, if it was some natural disaster or something. But yes, I mean, it's a legitimate concern that you're utilizing that tool that you then no longer have. Just like utilizing a restructuring, that is a tool that you have because you've paid down on that debt for so long. Now you're utilizing it.
So if you remember, in past years, that's how we have built millions of dollars worth of buildings around here. We built the athletic complex, we built the math and science wing, we built MD cafeteria, we built a junior high gym, all by utilizing the bond with no cost to the patrons of the district.
Yes, sir.
And I thought we were being wise.
No, absolutely, and I think that is
So we're
true.
using that bond to do that.
Correct, yeah.
Michael, can you confirm there's basically three ways for the school to make money, raise money for a building project? That is millage, bond restructuring, and second lien bonds. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's, in a vacuum, they can be coupled together.
Yes, for sure.
So that, you know, like it's all bonds, right? So we're all, and it's all utilizing it in a different.
Now, you
so
came
it's-
to us on April 7th and you said that we're very financially secure in that regard because we're basically about a 3.5% of our assessed value is our debt because we have about $8 million in debt, right?
Correct, and if you remember in that
Compared to other school
conversation-
districts, how are we looking?
Well, if you remember in that conversation, right after I said, here's your debt to assessment ratio, I said, I really don't care about that number because it doesn't give me any indication of the revenues coming off of the assessment.
For sure.
So I will tell you, you know, state average is around 9.5 of that.
Okay.
State tracks that. Me as an advisor, because it doesn't tell me.
Yeah. So if
what the revenue
if
is.
we
It
take
tells
in
me
8
the
million off
taxes.
of bond restructuring, that will double, right? So that means we'll be at 7%, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll still be 2% below state average, right?
Again, yes. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Another way to look at it is, you know, you can look at it from, we can take $212 million assessed value and we knock off, let's say 2 zeros. That turns it down to 220,000, right? Am I doing the math right? We can then take $8 million debt and knock off 2 zeros and that is 80,000, correct? So that's like somebody bringing in that's worth $212,000, correct? Has $80,000 in debt, correct? Another way to look at it is Dave
Yeah,
Ramsey.
no, I mean, I get your logic.
Yeah.
I don't,
It's making it,
but it's not what you have.
for sure.
Coverage ratio is important,
Yeah.
and that I think gets more to your, because that's a revenue to.
Yeah, well, I'm comparing it to a homeowner that is saying, hey, can I afford a new house? Another way to look at it is you guys have all heard of Dave Ramsey. They say 3 times your income you can afford a house. Our income is $20 million a year. We don't want to spend $60 million on new buildings or new loans. That is ridiculous. But I think we can afford $8 million more, which is $16 million in debt. That is what I'm looking at, another $8 million we need to borrow. Another thing to look at is back when Mike was on the board with the last millage fail, the board had $12 million in debt 5 years ago. We now have $8 million. So if we borrow $8 million more of bond restructuring, that will make us $16 million. 5 years ago, we were at $12 million in debt. So I just...
And I think to your point too, what is important to remember in all this is we're utilizing the restructuring with the last millage ask. So without that restructuring ability to get to the same construction number
It's $4.5 million.
is a different
Yeah.
is a different calculation.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all agree that we're not going to get to $35 million that we can spend. I mean, that's just, unless we do a millage and pass it, which I think nobody here wants to go that way, right? I mean, 3 times is not a charm and 4 times is not going to happen. So I'd like to go around the table. Are you done as far as most of the stuff you're presenting? Because I'd like to get everybody's opinion where they stand with this. Because, I mean, you guys know where I stand with it. But I'd like to get everybody's opinion around the board. What are you guys looking at? Are you guys looking at 8 million, 10 million, 5 million? He's already said that budget neutral is $4.5 million. So that means that we will not be borrowing, we will not be out any more money with $4.5 million, correct, if we
And
borrow?
that's on a second lien. If you look, there's the restructuring options
Okay.
where you can get, you know,
So
a
what
little
is
bit
budget
higher.
neutral on?
Yeah, you know, 6-ish is probably budget neutral.
Really? Wow.
Restructuring.
Okay, awesome. I thought it was about 5. So $6 million is the same as what we initially were going to the voters for, basically, right, Michael? Because we were going to do bond restructuring and a millage. So if we do $6 million right now and do bond restructuring, it's no different than what we already pushed to the voters to vote for. Everybody understand that, right? Nothing changes with $6 million.
And
So
that is keeping your current surplus
Yes.
the same.
Yes.
And that shows you on page 13.
and that's around 800,000 surplus. And
So, I mean, it's probably a little bit less, I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's probably a little bit less than 6 million.
Yeah.
And again, it would depend on what the interest rate was when you borrowed it.
Yeah.
You could, if you wanted to get more aggressive, we could look at wrapping a little bit on the back end.
Yeah.
Which would be increasing principal on the back end. increase your overall borrowing. But, so I say all that to say, depending on some variables, yes, 6 million, but, you know, you'd have to understand kind of the variables we're going to put.
So my opinion is $8 million would give us $28 million available. That would still leave $5 million in our building fund for anything we have that we might want to, extra projects, whatever. I've got paperwork here if anyone wants to see it as far as how much the school is saving. I know you don't like me using that word, but we had somebody from the School Resource Center of Little Rock come up and give us some forms, some graphs, and I can show anyone on the board if they want to see it. I think we're, you know, counting our interest and everything, we're bringing in about $2.3 million a year in extra income. Now, $900,000 of that is coming from our bank interest on our building fund, which is very high. So as we spend that building fund, it will go down. But we're taking $600,000 budgeted into our savings account every year, and we're also have about a $700,000 to $800,000 budget surplus every year, and that's going to continue to grow as property tax values go up. Which, as you saw from the county, that there's going to be reassessed values in the county, and I'm sure those are going to go up. So, I mean, I'd like to get everyone's thoughts on this. I mean, you guys know my thoughts. You've seen my video. The board, I mean, what are your thoughts, Gary?
I'd like to see it in a more digestible form from our superintendent, because it's his job to do that, and I'm sure he'd do that for us, just put that all in one digest. But getting back where you're talking about, my feelings on all this, we want what's best for our kids. And I conclude Mr. Nixon's, you know, we've got to come together as a board on this. We got to work on ourselves. Our kids are at stake. Our staff are at stake. So let's give and take a little bit. But I think here's my feelings after talking to several people in my district. I represent Zone 4. Guys, here's what I'm hearing from people. These are people I've known 40 years, some of them. I've been on their farms. Mostly are row crop farmers. They don't want any more taxes. The row crop farmer is about to go under. It's the worst crisis since the Great Depression. I think we need to take that into consideration when we come to add additional taxes. I know we have other farmers, you know, we got poultry, we got cattle farmers, but to add extra debt to it is a tax. Okay, the question is putting an extra bond, is that a tax too?
It's not a tax.
Yeah, but they still got to pay it.
The school pays it.
Well, they got to pay the taxes for it.
The school pays this bond restructuring, right?
But it's extended out.
Yeah, I think your biggest...
Here's what the individual said to me. He said, I'm passing my farm on to my kids.
If we go to the voters for a bond restructuring, taxes will not go up. Property tax will not go up.
No, but the length of time will. Here's his point. He said, I'm passing my farm to my kids. I have 4 grandkids, all of them 4. It's going to be in our family trust. He said, are you telling me I've got to pay for that for 30 years?
I could not find record of a bond restructuring.
I'm just stating what's being said. I'm not saying I agree with this.
Is there many bond restructurings that fail in voting? I couldn't find record of one.
Off the top of my head, it is much more, I don't want to speak in absolutes because I don't know for sure. It's usually a much higher success rate with restructuring. I will say, you know, your city did a sales tax restructuring and it only passed by 1 vote, and that was several years ago. But for the most part, a restructuring of any tax has a higher success rate.
Yes. I couldn't find record of it anywhere. In fact, Paragould did one in April of 2024. I called the school district in Paragould and they never called me back. I don't know.
If work on that. Yeah, that passed. It was much closer than I think they anticipated at the time. I think politically, inflation was a big driver of that. Little Rock had a restructuring that failed. Don't quote me on how many years ago. There was a real issue with state takeover and what schools were going to be closed. I think that was more.
Cave City passed a bond restructuring, but it was kind of an extension, millage extension, right? And that was 85% to extend the millage increase. So that's 85% in the city of Cave City. And so I feel like, I would vote for a bond restructuring. I think most of the people that kind of voted with me with this last millage election would go forward with the bond restructuring. I don't think it's a waste of time at all. There's also second lien bonds. I'd go that way too, but I asked you for some questions. Is there any advantage? It sounds like 4.5 to 6 is the best. It sounds like a lot better to go do bond restructuring because we can get $1.5 million more. And
well, it's just the length of time
Okay.
you're amortizing the debt that's
Okay.
allowing for that addition. I mean, we're going from being able to pay it off in 49 to paying it off in 56. I mean, that's the change. I mean, it's the extension of the tax, right?
Okay.
That's the restructuring component of this.
So the second lien just attaches onto the existing bond, you still pay them off at the same time.
Yeah, as you would your current tax. That's why you don't have to go back to voters, because you're not altering the tax. With a restructuring, you have to go back to voters because you're extending the tax. You're altering the tax, and so under Arkansas law, that's a requirement of voter approval. So
Let me ask you this, Michael. If we just went with, not the restructure, but the second lien bond
Yes, sir.
we have, how much money did that generate?
well, and that's the challenge that we've had. It's how much can you afford? So if you want to keep it the same, you could be around $4.5 million.
Remember the last one we did, it was 4.6. And that was good.
Correct. It actually ate into a little of your capacity, but you could, so if you just don't want to change your budget at all, it'd be about 4.5. Now you could eat into your budget, you could eat into your capacity, but that was the concern, is that if you continue to do that, at what point are you going to be able to run the district the way you want to? Which means, is that salaries, is that was the question, is at what point can you start eating into the budget that you're comfortable with? And so,
And I assume they're also paying a higher interest rate on the second lien, just like you would a HELOC or something?
no, you would obviously, that would make a ton of sense, but because of the Arkansas State Intercept program, where there's a state program that says that they will step in and make your payment regardless, they trade at nearly identical interest rates. You'd be hard pressed to see any difference in them.
so just so everyone knows, the deadline for moving forward with a March election for December is December 18th?
So I talked with your county. The way I count the days, we have to get them everything by the 19th.
Okay.
April's great, and I would trust her.
Okay.
She thought maybe we had an extra day or two,
Okay.
but in my mind, I'd probably want to stick to say April 19th is when you have to have all this stuff delivered to the county, which means you would have to have had board action by the 18th.
Okay.
For you to adopt, and then it's the same process. We have to turn in what we want for the ballot, which is just emailing it to them, and then we have to publish the proposed budget.
When would be the next available day?
The next available date will not be until March of 27. So they have changed the election laws.
Which is after our construction has to start to get the bond, to get the money from the state.
Correct, and that was, again, I mean, if y'all remember before we called this, I was like, it's gonna be tight one way or the other on the next one, and so.
Okay, I want to clarify.
That'll be my question.
Construction beginning is a signed agreement to enter into
Yeah,
that process.
We went through this on the elementary.
It's not turning,
We actually
it's
signed
not turning dirt.
a year before.
Right,
Which we've already done. correct?
which we've already done, yes.
Time shovel it up.
Timeline on that's 4 or 5 years.
Well, the timeline to have all the money spent and the project done is 4 years. There is, in talking with our facilities advisor, there is a structure that if we are in the middle of construction, let's say we're halfway done, and that May of 29 deadline is there, then we can ask the state for an extension. What I've been told is if you're in the middle of construction, the state will probably grant you an extension, right? You can't ask for it, you can't not have started like building, literally building, and then say, oh, well, we need an extension. The state is probably not going to grant that.
And I want to clarify a point on the election. So I said March of 27. I just want to walk through the new election laws with you so we're all on the same page because they're very complicated. So you are now required, as you all know, to have your annual elections. Your annual board election must occur in March. That is new state statute. However, they did not they are not able to alter without a vote of the people the state constitution. The state constitution states that with your annual election, you must publish your proposed budget of expenditures. That is your next action item that you have to, because we have to do it for your annual election. That proposed budget of expenditures does a lot of things, but it outlines your tax ask. Technically, you could hold a November of 26 election. However, to do so, the statute reads that you must qualify everything that must be done for your annual election. Meaning you have to publish your proposed budget of expenditures 60 days before your annual election. And as I just stated, the proposed budget of expenditures has to outline your tax ask. So if you've heard you can have a special election in November, the answer to that is yes. However, you had to have decided December what that ask was going to be. So I know that's really confusing, and I said March 27 quickly, but I want to take a moment, step back, and give you that full picture. So you could, in theory, have a November of 26 election. You would have to make a decision on what you're doing at that election on the same time frame as your March 26, because of the requirements of the state constitution for the proposed budget expenditures to be published 60 days prior to your annual election.
Michael, you're our financial advisor. You see a lot of school finances, right? What dollar amount do you think we can afford? 8 million, 10 million, 12 million, what?
I would be hard pressed to just tell you that right now. I'd want to have some additional.
You see, I mean, you made this book up. Do you see 8 million being very feasible?
Anything that's cash neutral,
Yeah.
feels relatively safe,
Yep.
right? You're losing students. I don't know what's going to happen with school funding.
Okay.
I don't know how you as a board want to operate your district. Are you looking at trying to give raises? Are you losing?
Yes.
Are you trying to put back the amount of money you've always put back in your building fund? Traditionally, this district has been very conservative in making sure it saves for the future. There are not a lot of districts I work with that have the amount of money in the building fund that you do. Most districts that I work with that were trying to do a project of your size would not have even been able to think about a millage ask as low as yours. So it's very challenging for me to tell you that because I don't know exactly what you want.
Okay. Well, Gary, can you be more specific about what you think we should move forward and then kind of go around the table?
Well, I mean, here's what I'm about to say, guys, it's just for discussion.
Okay.
And I want to tell you, whatever we decide, the majority of this board, I'm going to support.
Okay.
But my thinking on it, I'm old school. Buy what you can afford.
Yeah.
I don't want to put the debt, because we know we have several projects we want to do. We've got this renovation for ball fields. We've got a football field needs to be renovated right, it's going to cost us $1 million. We've got a problem with M.D. Williams. There's some things out there that bother me.
What's the problem with M.D. Williams?
Where we have to jack it up again.
He's talking about the foundation.
The foundation.
The last regular meeting we had, you asked questions about the security and putting in that,
Yeah.
right?
We're not
And so-
talking $100,000
What I'm
yet.
saying is there's, normally in the summer, the
Yeah.
superintendent, will have a list of several items. That'll be $200,000 or $300,000.
Yeah, for sure.
So we need
Yeah.
to maintain that, like you said one time, maintain our roofs.
Yeah.
We gotta continue to do that. But my feelings on it is, let's stay within our means, whatever that is.
So what number do you think? 6 million?
I'm not-
6 million is what? $6 million bond
I'm gonna let the
restructuring.
final decision rest with that man right there, because he's the one that does our finances.
Okay. Brent, you want
But
to?
I want to add this. We talked about a millage. Guys, it's been repeated 3 times. There's no sense. The public has spoken, whether you're for it or against it, the public has spoken. So we've got to live within our means.
Okay.
We've got to get the most out of a dollar. So whatever that takes, I think that's what we need to do. I don't want to put the school in, I'm not a gambler. And when I signed an oath to run for school board 30 years ago, I raised my hand and I said I would be honest and forthwith and not with the school's finances. To me, what we're talking about is gambling, and I don't agree.
Brent?
I don't have a problem with exploring but I want 20-year projections. And there's not gonna be a guarantee because with school funding, you know, and different things like that going forward, whoever we pass this board on to down the road, we need to leave it as good or better than when we found it. I'm not willing, and I'll say it again, I'm not willing to sacrifice the finances of this district's strength for any one building or project.
So you're saying we shouldn't build a high school?
That ain't what I said.
Well, I mean-
I said we need to explore all options.
Is that it?
I mean, I think it's gonna be hard to put a number on what we need because until we get through tomorrow. So the big concern of mine is they're gonna come back and say, okay, well, 2 point whatever was for this gym, and then it left 5 point whatever for the building. And so I think that there's bigger decisions to be made. Do we scale it back? Do we take ninth grade out of the building? What do we build? Do we build one story instead of two? There's so many questions, but then again, you get those answers and then the state says, okay, well, if you do that, then we give you half of what we were giving you, which makes a big difference when you're borrowing $6 million or $8 million. I mean, it's kind of a hard decision to make until we talk to whoever we talk to tomorrow.
I'm gonna piggyback off what Jennifer said. I was waiting on these numbers from the financial guy from our school district and the meeting with Destiny Mall, because I think the whole problem is, Chad, with your approach has been just that, the approach. You keep putting the cart before the horse. We can't do anything, absolutely nothing by law until this meeting is had tomorrow. So discussions, sure, you can have discussions.
Well, I know, but the deadline is coming up, that's why.
I understand that, but doing it all beforehand still changes nothing. We can do nothing until tomorrow.
Well, they're gonna wanna show that we can self-fund this, and I feel like as a board, we can self-fund it.
No, we don't
I
have
mean,
to tell them tomorrow that we have to self-fund it.
It will
That's
help.
after he has
It
the
will
meeting, Then they will give us what we need to do, then we can provide them the evidence that we can self-fund.
I think the issue is though, is even if we borrowed $8 million, it still doesn't give us what we were projecting to need to begin with.
I think-
So we can't build what we were
I think we can
projecting.
build the same thing for $8 million less. And part of that comes down to the construction manager that we're gonna speak about later. And, so I think we can do it. And if you guys,
That's significant.
it is, and I will show you how we can make it happen. But I think we need to not let this opportunity go as far as bond restructuring. I mean, $6 to $8 million, $8 million we can afford. I've got these graphs, you know, there's
I'm
proven
missing
three.
the point where we're letting this go.
Well, I mean, if we let it go past the 19th, when is the next?
Well, so two different things we're talking about here. Your ability to go to voters would be like a year jump.
Yeah.
The restructuring, and me and Dr. Arbuckle talked about this because it's very clear this may be something you want to utilize, and we try to utilize it in every millage ask we've had, with or without a millage increase. You want to, it's making sure budgeting going forward, when your payment decreases, you don't start moving that into operating. You hold that money that's now freed up to say, we're going to put that in the building fund, because we're going to, when the time comes, we're going to be utilizing that towards a bond payment. I mean, we're all talking about revenue here. I mean, if you've got $200,000 freed up from your bond payment falling off, that's the same thing as the bond payment not falling off and $1 million being increased. So as long as we have that restructuring in mind, where it's like, look, yeah, this payment is going down, but we're not going to go ahead and use those for raises, then you should be fine to utilize that restructuring in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever time. Does that make sense? So it clicks a year, yes, or if you want to get, technical, maybe you could do something in November if you acted now, but I think...
There's where I'm at, rather than rushing to something, I agree with you, Chad. Let's explore all the possibilities. Jennifer, I think we all agreed on something.
Well,
I think we need to explore that.
We're not agreeing with Chad. Chad wants to get it done right now.
Well, we've been talking about it for a year, about bond
I think-
restructuring or millage.
Rather than jump into it, I would rather take a slow approach to it, make sure we've only got one chance to get it done.
Okay. Well, it sounds like that the only option, I mean, unless we wait all the way till
It's a matter of
next spring.
8 months.
Yeah.
then we still could cross the same bridge there with the same
Okay.
results. It's just, we make sure everybody knows that this is what we want to do.
I mean, I think it's gonna be more, I mean, it'll be more than 8 months, it'll be 15
Well, it'll be
months.
November, but that would give Dr. Arbuckle time to work the finances and maybe do some projections 2 years down the
I
road.
think the
actually be
November
March.
vote's still this week.
It would be the following March.
Yeah,
It can't go until a year and 3 months away before we can actually go to the voters. I mean, $6 million is,
I want it tomorrow for a
yeah.
bid.
So,
Well, six-
Michael,
Not a problem.
what does it look like if we borrowed the $8 million and then decided in 2 months that this is not, it's not gonna work?
So, before the election?
And then we gotta
Or
wait
say
till
after
election.
the election, 2 months after the election, we say, okay, it's gonna cost us too much, we're not gonna be able to do it.
We need to have a decision made prior to
So,
with that.
well, so you don't want to go to voters and tell them you're going to do one thing and then not. I'm trying to think of a scenario, you know, what you'd have to do is, I mean, you just wanted to issue the debt, obviously, and then you would alter your next, or your 27 ballot to kind of say like, hey, we're going to revert this back to what it previously was. I think would be the steps that I would suggest.
As far as money lost, things like that, we can't, if we draw interest on the money,
Well, we want it,
we wouldn't.
so if you go to voters and say, we want to do a bond restructuring, we're not going to increase your tax, we're going to extend it out, and we want to borrow $8 million, and they vote yes, there's no hard and fast rule of how quickly you have to issue that debt. So obviously, if there is still a lot of concern on what the project's actually going to cost, we want to issue the debt. And so you're going to have an election regardless. You wouldn't be out any money for that, and we just wouldn't issue the bonds until y'all are comfortable that 8 million is what you need, and if it turned out it was 7 million, then you know you could issue that.
So could the election say not to exceed 8
Yes.
million?
Yeah, that's how it always is. If you'll remember, even in the number we used last time, it's a not to exceed amount. And that's just, it's just the way you have to, there's so many rules. So it's a not to exceed amount. You can always issue less, you can never issue more. And you can make it, you know, it gives you the benefit too of like, really what most people are doing is they're solving for initial construction amount, and then we're backloading up like what the payment is actually going to be. And so, you know, you could say, look, it's not going to exceed 8 million, but really, Michael, what I want you to do is, because we're calling this so far in between, when we can actually lock in the interest rate, solve for the payment of what we're comfortable with, and that will determine the construction funds that we get. Does that make sense?
See, and that's the kind of conversation I feel like as a board that we have to have before that decision can be made. Meaning like, okay, let's say we're gonna go with 8 million, but number-wise, in the ideal world, we're really closer to the 6, but we do have that buffer in case they don't go.
That's
for
exactly
8.
what I want to do, yeah.
But again, we still don't know that number because I don't think we can build the school as designed for the price that we're gonna be able to borrow. I think there's gonna have to be modifications to that
Which could change
design,
the funding.
which could change the funding we're getting from the state. So now we're starting to get more moving parts going on. I'm just not as confident as you. I mean, I get it. This is your
Well, you
this is your
guys know
world.
me, I'm kind of a mover. I would never put the school in a bad financial shape. I'm a number cruncher. I do not take risks. My businesses, I do not take risks. I feel confident that I can build this school for $6 million extra, what we're looking for. But I feel like we need to say, hey, let's ask for $8 million. We'll give $2 million back at the end of the project if we can do that. I think we can make it happen. I'm going to make a motion to move forward with the bond restructuring up to $8 million.
Before you do that, you touched on school funding. What is the latest buzz?
The latest that I've heard, and it changes with the wind blowing, the latest I've heard, Dr. Arnold, you may have a better, but that a lot of people thought it would be picked up at the 26th physical session. I'm not hearing that that's the case, that it'll be more than likely moved to 27. And that hopefully, again, hopefully you would have a 2-year lead-in to when the change occurs, when the actual changes. They can pick up
I would,
the conversation, I don't know.
I think that a lot of numbers being thrown around. I'd just like to see a more digestible form of this through Dr. Arbuckle. If he's gonna meet tomorrow, maybe he's ready for us, we can meet again in a different way.
Look pretty.
Maybe.
Lance, off the top of your head,
So should
does
this be 8
$8 million scare you as far as
Since
financial needs of the district?
the questions I have is what will the board choose to build,
Yeah.
right? So I think that,
So do you see an issue with going through with putting the bond on the ballot and then assessing it later and not using as much if we needed to?
You've got,
Not
what you
using
put
it.
on the bond, you've got to state what you're going to use it
Well,
for. Right, Michael?
up
So the
to,
bond, whatever you stated, the purpose of one is. Sorry. On the bond restrictions, you have to specify the purpose.
well, it would be for the high school bill, right?
And it would be as we use, it's very generic, erecting and equipping school facilities. We just really got to clarify that it is not for anything other than construction or equipping purposes. So obviously you can't use any of these funds for maintenance and operation, things of that nature, no. But erecting and equipping new school facilities, making additions and improvements to existing school facilities is the standard language that I think is on.
I guess my question is, I just wonder if we voted to do the bond and you went tomorrow, that it would be like, okay, well, the district's willing to put up $8 million to match whatever the partnership.
well, we don't know if I mean, it'll be up to the voters
Right, but
to
willing,
decide.
willing, if it would match the partnership funding, if they would be more likely to say, okay, we're gonna give you a chance to do it.
Well, I mean, I think the question becomes, what, does the board feel like, or does the board have evidence? That's what I'm gonna say, right? It's not about what you feel.
Right.
It's about what you have evidence for, right? So, does the board have evidence that that we can, as a district, that we can build what it is that you want to build? So then the second question is, does the board agree on what needs to be constructed? Right? Is it a 100,000 square foot building? I mean, going back to what we put in front of the voters this last time, in essence, a 93,000 square foot building with all of the things that were in there? Or is it a 60,000 square foot academic space only? Or is it instead of a 912 building, it's a 1012 building? Right, and it's hard for me to guide the board to provide a recommendation without knowing what it is the board wants to build.
I guess my thoughts are, if it gave us a budget, if we went and said not to exceed $8 million, and we're going into it kind of the opposite this time around, and looking at it and saying, okay, well, we have less than 25 million, what can we get away with building?
Well, remember,
Instead of looking at it as, this is what we want, this is what we need.
Todd was here, the architect was here a year ago, and I said, Todd, if we gave you a $28 million budget, can you make a school work
I'm
with these
sure
square
it could,
footage
but
numbers?
doesn't
He
it
said yes.
Look like a prison, and that's.
No, I'm not. I want to build the same school that's been
They
proposed.
have to report that, I'm gonna be honest with you, what he came back with, the people in this town will run us out.
I want to build the same school that's being proposed, and I have a plan to do it. I'm not saying I know everything, but I think we can make it work. And if you listen to my numbers and my proposal later on, and let me come back with some numbers from other contractors.
That's why I think we need to we hear what you got to say, we mull all of that over.
For sure.
Let's just put this on hold. I want Dr. Arbuckle.
Okay.
He's the only one employed here. It's his skin on the line if it don't work, not ours.
I will say, I will agree with Chad on the sense of if we look at 8 million and we say, okay, well, this is what we can top out afford, doesn't mean we have to use it all. It doesn't mean we have to spend it all. It doesn't mean, but we'll miss that window. And
What does a year matter?
a year matters a lot, Gary.
Not to
I
me.
mean,
When you're old as I am,
it's
you're
over,
older.
if you're talking over a year.
matters to me because I have kids in the school district.
Yeah, this is over a year. It's November to March, so what's that, 5 months? So it's 17 months from now before we could even talk about it. Well, before we would even know. And
Well,
then
chances
most
are-
likely, Gary, the
Chances are,
same
if
thing.
we went into a contract with a construction company in the next 30 days,
I know, but what I'm
If it
saying is
happens,
if that vote on the money's not done this week, the same vote's gonna happen for next March. It's not gonna matter whether we do it this week or we do it next week to put it on next March's ballot. It's gonna be the same thing, up to $8 million.
So, sounds like you guys want to wait till tomorrow night and see what happens tomorrow, right?
Let's do it.
Nobody has a second here?
Yeah.
Okay, so is everybody ready to move on?
Okay, hold on, because there is time to, like, so item 7.3 is the budget of expenditures. So at this point,
I think we
the
should
board,
postpone that.
the board, well, for, you can postpone it for like,
3 days.
no, because he's got to, how long is it going to take you to get the paperwork?
So,
I mean, because,
logistically, like, okay, if you meet tomorrow night, is that what I'm hearing? You're gonna meet tomorrow night, and you say, Michael, we want to call a millage restructuring, you need to meet
Bond.
Thursday night, and the Friday firm prepares the documents. I will do my best to have them prepare them. I will obviously make it a priority to review them and make sure that they are ready for you Thursday night, but I would need to know as soon as humanly possible so I can prep the documents. It will be tight, but I'll get it done.
Can you throw a 20-year projection in there with it?
For
Our basic finances, if we do this. If
They
it
can't
was
predict that
passed.
far out.
well, you're going to, okay, when you do those kind of, I mean, you'll notice when you're doing these projections, the revenues are always the same for what it is right now, right? Because you're not going to be able to predict an up or down on that piece.
Students and,
right,
so on and so
and
forth.
look, I mean, I'm being conservative, I'm being conservative because we're not thinking about other things. Your assessment should grow. I'm not saying it will, but it should. So those should go up. But is it going to go up more than your inflationary pressures? Because if you're utilizing some of that money anyway, I mean, that's why I would look at it as like, what are you doing today? What do you think the future is going to hold? Obviously, that's hard to say. It would be a real challenge to do that.
Historically, Brent, we brought in, 10 years ago, we were bringing $6,400 per child. Now we're bringing in $10,800 per child. And so, not saying it's going to keep that rate, but it might be similar, Now, you kind of frowned at me with 10,800. It's 8,300 from the state. The rest is for partnership funding from the local communities. So I've got the paperwork here I sent you guys in the board packet a few hours ago that shows the $10,800 per child.
Well, I mean, I think if we can put up, if you get that information, I just think it's too tight, guys. I don't know.
I mean, what I'm hearing from Michael and what I'm hearing from this board is that decision has to be made no later than tomorrow.
What?
Tomorrow night, I mean.
Yeah, for me to prep docs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else you could.
I mean, we could meet again, and you can call us on the way back, or send us an email, and, tell us what they've come up with, or if they took and gave our funding to someone else.
We've also got the second lien bonds we could pull from. If you're saying the interest rate is the same, we could pull that direction if the deadline ends. I don't think, as long as our interest rate says the same, I mean, that's an option for us.
It would just not allow you to borrow as much.
Yes, and be revenue neutral.
Yeah, that would be the issue.
Yes, I'm looking at like 6 million, we're revenue neutral, nothing extra is a payment, 4.5 million with.
You're basing that on a figure in mind, though, aren't you?
Well, what I'm saying is
Cost of the project.
yeah, I mean, it'd be
Well,
nice.
the project was a lot more.
4.5 million with the second lien bond would be budget neutral. It's not gonna cost the school any more per month.
Yeah.
Versus $6 million is budget neutral with a bond restructuring, correct? So I'm looking at it like that. I think we can afford it. I sent you guys the paperwork that shows the school is bringing in $2.3 million extra. Of course, lots of that will go away when we spend the money, but we're still, I think that we'll be bringing in $1.4 million every year. I mean, if it was my business, I would sock $1 million into that fund and pay it off in 8 years, but that's
Well,
not
I
practical.
understand what you're saying,
So,
Chad, and I
yeah.
appreciate it, but I want to hear from that man right there, because he's the boss.
So,
It's his
we are
camp,
the
it's his
governing
camp.
body of the school. We are the governing body of the school. Technically, it's our decision.
Yeah, but what our decision is, if you remember, as a board member, we are to direct but we let the superintendent with day-to-day activities make
Yes.
recommendations.
Yes, for sure.
But I agree, I know what you're saying. I mean, hopefully we all work together.
So, sounds like the next one, we want to table it. I mean, I guess we need to move forward.
I think we all want to see that number.
And regardless of which direction you go, you do have to authorize that at some point, whether it have a bond restructuring language in it or not. So that document that I sent you is it's part of your annual election packet that we put together. So you either need to do that version that I've given you at some point before Thursday, or have me prep a new one that would call the election, and then we need to call that at Thursday, no later than Thursday. We're all on the same page.
I'm totally confused. Let's take a break.
Take a 5-minute break. School board meeting is back in session. Next agenda item, Dr. Arbuckle.
Okay, so,
Do we need to make a motion?
so we have item 7.3, which is the budget of expenditures, okay? The current budget of expenditures you have on your agenda is the budget of expenditures to maintain the status quo, okay? So if you approve that, then the bond restructure conversation, that you come back and visit that this time next year, right? You would not be able to restructure the bonds for March. That starts Michael on the process. I mean, the paperwork's already done. We get it to the county clerk, and the millage is the same for the next year. Okay? If you choose not to vote on the current budget of expenditures, because you, as a board, want to look at actually doing the budget or the bond restructuring, then that decision is going to have to still be made. I'm going to say to give Michael any time at all to get the documents made. That decision is going to have to be made tomorrow, right? Tomorrow night. We just need to plan on if that's,
What time is your meeting tomorrow?
9 a.m.
In Little Rock?
Yeah. So that's really where you're at right now, is you're making the decision. Are you going to make in essence, make a motion to approve the budget of expenditures as presented? Or are you going to make a motion to table the budget of expenditures for, in essence, a meeting?
Motion table till tomorrow.
A second.
Now, is this on the tax restructure? Do we need to do it
No.
also
Well, I mean,
to table it?
yeah, I mean, I
Is it
guess so.
an action item?
Yeah. So if that's what you're going to do, then I would say you need to if you're going to vote to table the tax restructure so that you can have the conversation about tabling the budget of expenditures, that would make the most sense. So why don't you start?
I'll make a motion to table the tax rate restructure till tomorrow.
Second?
The motion and second to table the tax restructure until tomorrow. Everybody in favor say yes?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now you have your budget of expenditures.
You want to table it?
Make a motion we table the budget of expenditures
Second.
till tomorrow.
Have a motion and second to table the budget expenditures until tomorrow. Everybody in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item 7.4 is is discussion and possible action on the board member proposal to reconsider and rescind the construction manager appointment for a proposed high school project.
So, Nathan, I like you, but I want you to kind of walk me through some of these numbers on the bathroom remodel to kind of give me a little bit more trust in you, okay? If you can bring your chair up, I'll pass them to you one by one.
Can we do that? Can we do that?
What can we?
Since we've already approved the,
You can, so board members have options. You can have this happen. You can move to table this particular item.
I don't want us to be in any trouble for discussing the previous invoices
Well,
we've already approved.
So
I think I should show you some things on here.
I think I'm gonna defer that to Dawn since it's a legal question.
Where we are on rediscussing invoices we've already approved, paid.
Prior invoices.
This speaks volumes on what I've found, Don. Nobody added anything together on these invoices, and I want to show the board that there's some stuff missing here, and there's some things wrong on here that are kind of unethical. And I feel like if we're going to trust them for a $30 million project, that we need to have, and on the video, I want him the opportunity to come back and say, hey, this is the reason why on the video I put out, why the prices were so much different than his prices. And I think the public really wants it too.
I do, but wouldn't it be better if you and Navajos and Dr. Arbuckle sat down and went up this, brought it back to the board, if there's any action taken?
Can I have just a moment with your superintendent?
Yes.
Okay, after consideration of this particular item with our legal counsel, I would recommend the board go into executive session to have a conversation amongst the board.
We can talk about this in executive session.
So,
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move into executive session and talk about this issue. Everybody in favor say yes?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
okay, the board has returned from executive session. At this time, no decisions will be made, and we're going to move on to the next item. So the next item on the agenda is the cybersecurity lab. The board has a quote or the district seeks to purchase the purchase of ByteSpeed desktop computers for the high school cybersecurity lab. The current desktops are from 2018-2019 and are struggling to keep up with the daily tasks. The new desktops will be custom built and made for the performance needs for the cybersecurity course and curriculum. The purchase will include 24 computers from the lab. We are seeking approval to proceed with the purchase of these 24 custom-built desktop computers from ByteSpeed at a cost of not more than $35,000. These are single-source items and will be recognized as such.
It's going to the junior high, or is it in the high school, the business building?
No, my understanding is this is the high school.
The high school, okay. Make a motion to approve.
So moved on request.
Motion is second to approve this ByteSpeed quote. Everybody in favor say yes?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 7.6 is a leave request. So you have in your notes that we have a teacher seeking approval for catastrophic leave. This is within policy 3.13, and this individual does have the documentation required. So it just needs approval by the board.
Motion?
Second.
Motion is second to approve this leave request. Everybody in favor say yes? Yes. Motion passes 5-0.
You have your, I'm going to go ahead and come down to item 10.1. This is the personnel agenda. So you have on your personnel agenda the resignation of Kathleen Fleming as district ESOL coordinator. We actually already have that position posted as well. We just need, I would recommend the board approve the resignation for Kathleen Fleming.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the Resignation of Kathleen Clement, everybody in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
You also have, item 10.2, you have noted there the approved student transfers. These are the student transfers that have been approved since the last board meeting. We bring those to the board's attention for informational purposes only, because they have both been approved. I have no more items on the agenda, so we would just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.